Today we're going to be talking about generating equivalent forms of rational numbers, including whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. So the keyword here is going to be equivalent fractions. Now, our first vocabulary word is fraction. This is a number that represents the part of a whole. So if I have 4/5 of a pizza left, that means that the 4 is part of the whole amount, which would be 5 pieces. Our next word is numerator. The numerator is the top number of a fraction. So if we are dealing with 4/5, the top number of our fraction would be the 4. Our next word is denominator. The denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. So if we are still dealing with 4/5, we know that the 5 is the bottom number of the fraction, which would be the denominator. We also have equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are fractions that name the same number. They share the same relationship between part and whole. So if we have 1/2, we know that 1/2 is equal to 4/8. 4 is half of 8, and 1 is half of 2. So we know that these fractions are actually equal to one another. They are equivalent. Now let's move on to the steps of how to find fractions that are equivalent to one another. If you could skip down on your notes to the portion that says express the equivalent fraction for 1/2, which is our next step here. So in order to express the equivalent fraction for 1/2, we know that we must always multiply the numerator and the denominator, which are the top and bottom numbers, by the same number. So in this case, we see that we have 1/2 that we start off with. Now you're going to see that we multiply by 2 on the top, so we must also multiply by 2 on the bottom. I like to think of the fraction bar as a balance. You are balancing equal things. So if I take 1 times 2 on the top, I must also do the same thing on the bottom, 2 times 2. So I know that 1 times 2 is 2, and that 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/4 is equal to 1/2. Now I could do the same thing again. I could multiply by 2 again. But I must do that on top and bottom. I know that 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Now, I know your next question is, do I always have to multiply by 2 on top and bottom? And the answer is no. You could multiply by 4. But if you multiply by 4 on the top, you must also do the same on the bottom. So we know that 4 times 4 would give us 16, and 8 times 4 would give us 32. So 16 is still half of 32. 16 over 32 is equal to 1/2. So let's try out an example here. We see that they want us to express the equivalent fraction for 4/5. So if I am looking at 4/5, I know that I must do the same operation on top and bottom. So let's say that we choose to multiply by 2, as we did above in our example. I must do the same on top and bottom. And I know that 4 times 2 would give me 8, and 5 times 2 would give me 10. So we know that 8/10 and 4/5 are equal. They are equivalent fractions. We could do the same thing again. We could also multiply by 2 one more time. But remember, if you multiply by 2 on the top, you must do the same thing to the bottom. So we know that 8 times 2 would give us 16, and 10 times 2 would give us 20. So we know that 16/20, 8/10, and 4/5 are all equal or equivalent fractions. Now, another way that you might see these problems written is with a missing number at the top. So let's talk about what you would do in that situation if you were to be given a problem with a missing number, such as this one. You are going to see that they want us to fill in the blank to make an equivalent fraction. So in order for that to happen, we know that we want to set something equal to 2/3, and we've got a missing number here, and we want to make it equal to something over 21. Now, our first step in order to solve this problem is going to be to cross multiply the numbers that are already across from one another. We see that 2 and 21 are diagonal. So in order to cross multiply, we're simply going to multiply them together. We've got 21 times 2. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Now, our second step would be to divide by the remaining number. So the number that we have left in our problem that we have not used is the number 3. So we're going to divide our 42 by 3. Remember, 42 will go in the house. We know that 3 goes into 4 one time. And we know that 3 will go into 12 4 times. That leaves us with 0 as a remainder. So we know that our missing remainder is going to be 14. So to make it equivalent, we know that 14 would need to be the number inside of the box. So 2/3 is equal to 14 over 21. Let's now give this a try with a couple of word problems. The first word problem that we are given says that Jose was asked to find a number equivalent to 56 hundredths. Which of the following numbers is not equivalent to 56 hundredths? We know that first off we need to discover the question that we are trying to solve for. In this case it says which of the following numbers is not equivalent to 56 hundredths. So we will mark our key words. The first they have in bold, it says not equivalent, which would be the same thing as not being equal. And our number that we are looking at is 56 hundredths. So we know that we are going to start out with 56 hundredths. And I know that that says 56 hundredths because my 6, the last digit, is in the hundredths place. Now, we know that we are looking for the one that is not equivalent. So right away we can eliminate A because that one is equal. Now, we need to find which fractions are not equal. So we know that we can divide, the same thing as multiplying by the same number on top and bottom, we can also divide by the same number. So say we divide by 2 on top and bottom. We know that 56 divided by 2 would give us the number 28, and that 100 divided by 2 gives us 50. So 28 over 50 is equivalent to 56 over 100. So we know that we have a 28 over 50 here, so that cannot be our answer because it is equivalent to 56 hundredths. So we've got B and C left. We have 14 25ths and 56 tenths. We want to know which one is equal. So these numbers that are left are smaller, so we can then go and divide again. Let's say we divide top and bottom by 2 again. You're going to see that we divided by the same number on top and bottom. So 28 divided by 2 is 14. And 50 divided by 2 is 25. So we know that 14 25ths is also equivalent to 56 hundredths. So B cannot be our answer. And we know that we are left with C, 56 tenths. In order to be 56 tenths, this 6 would have had to have been in the 10th place, which would be impossible to happen. So we know that C is the answer to this word problem. Now for another word problem. Skip down to the second word problem on your notes, and you're going to see that Dylan has sorted 1/5 of his pencils, which fraction is equivalent to the amount of pencils that he has not sorted. Alright, so we want to find that question first. We see that it's asking us which fraction is equivalent to the amount of pencils he has not sorted. So as we go back and find our key phrases, they want to know which fraction is equivalent to the amount of pencils he has not sorted. We know that he has sorted 1/5. So we know that if we have 5 pencils, I like to draw pictures to represent. So let's say we have 5 pencils. He has sorted 1/5 of them. So we'll label that has sorted. But we want to know how many he has not sorted. So we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4 pencils. So this one is 1/5, and these are not sorted, and they represent 4/5. So we want to find the answer choice that is equal to 4/5. So if we look at choice A gives us 2/10. And we realize that our denominator here is smaller, so we would have to divide this one. We want to divide by the same number on top and bottom, and we know that the number 2 will divide evenly into 2 and 10. So we know that 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Well, we do have 1/5 over here, but it has been sorted. We're looking for the pencils that have not been sorted, so we can eliminate choice A. Now for choice B, we have 8/10. We could divide 8/10 by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 8/10 is equivalent to 4/5. This one could possibly be our answer. We will leave it there. C gives us 4/20. So 4/20. We can simplify 4/20. We know that we could divide both of these by 4s. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5. This one's equal to 1/5. Remember, 1/5 are those that have been sorted. We want to know which ones have not been sorted. So we can eliminate choice C. And the last choice is 8/40. We know that we could divide 8/40 by 8. See that I'm dividing by the same number on top and bottom. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 40 divided by 8 is 5. Again, this one equals 1/5, which are the ones that have been sorted. So we know that D is automatically out. And we are left with our correct answer, B. 8/10 is equivalent to 4/5, the pencils that have not been sorted. I now need you to go to our class Moodle, and on your journal, go ahead and complete your summary for this set of notes.